Have you ever closely examined a famous painting and noticed something that seemed off? Something that once you see it, you can't unsee? Many people have this experience when they encounter one of the most famous portraits in German art history, Goethe in the Campagna by Johann Heinrich Wilhelm Tischbein. This masterpiece holds a secret that once you see it, you'll never forget. When you look at this painting, created in 1787, you see Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a titan of German literature, depicted during his famous Italian journey. It's more than just a portrait. It's a statement, a visualization of a life-changing period in Goethe's life. Goethe was in a deep artistic crisis and wasn't entirely satisfied with the rest of his life either. In short, Goethe needed a change of scenery and embarked on his famous trip to Italy, which he also documented in his diaries. Tischbein, a painter who became Goethe's travel companion and close friend in Italy, captured Goethe not in a grand heroic pose, but in a thoughtful moment amidst ancient ruins. The painting shows Goethe resting on fragments of an obelisk, surrounded by the melancholic beauty of the Roman countryside. His gaze is directed into the distance, perhaps outwards, towards the eternal city, and perhaps also inwards, thinking about the profound effect of this journey on his soul. The light, the composition, the expression, everything seems to speak of a deep connection to the ancient world, a world Goethe wished he could have experienced himself. The choice of setting is no accident. The Roman Campagna, the area surrounding Rome, with its scattered ruins, symbolizes the fleeting nature of human existence and the enduring legacy of classical antiquity. For Goethe, this journey was not just a sightseeing tour, it was a pilgrimage to the roots of Western culture, a search for artistic and spiritual renewal. He had escaped the confining court life in Weimar and sought freedom and inspiration in Italy. Tischbein masterfully translates this desire into a visual narrative with a deep understanding of Goethe's aspirations. The relationship between Tischbein and Goethe was indeed special, almost symbiotic. They met in Rome in 1786, and Tischbein quickly became one of Goethe's closest confidants during his stay. Their shared passion for classical antiquity and art formed the basis of a deep friendship. The portrait is not a formal commission, but a work born out of genuine friendship and shared intellectual pursuits. Goethe himself wrote extensively about his time in Italy, and his writing often mentioned Tischbein, highlighting the artist's role in shaping his Italian adventure. It's also worth noting that Johann Heinrich Wilhelm Tischbein came from a remarkable artistic family. The Tischbein family was a prominent dynasty of painters from Hesse, Germany, active from the 18th to the early 19th century. There were several notable artists within the family, often referred to as the painter Tischbeins. This rich artistic heritage undoubtedly influenced Johann Heinrich Wilhelm, giving him a strong foundation in classical aesthetics and portraiture. His family background underscores the fact that he was not an amateur, but a highly talented artist. This makes the anatomical anomalies in Goethe's portrait, which I will discuss shortly, all the more curious. The various elements in the painting are rich in symbolism, conveying a much deeper message than a simple portrait. Goethe in the Campagna doesn't depict a specific concrete situation from Goethe's life. Instead, Tischbein's main goal was to make a universal statement through the painting. The artist himself explained it more precisely. He wanted to portray the poet reflecting on the fate of human works. Here, Goethe rests on the remnant of past antiquity. And Tischbein masterfully shows us how the different epochs from ancient Egypt, symbolized by the obelisk, to Greece with the Iphigenia relief, to the Roman capital. How this past surrounds him and encourages him to reflect on the fate of human creations. It was as if history itself was speaking to him while he worked on his own drama Iphigenia in Taurus, thus building a bridge between ancient and new art. Tischbein idolized Goethe's role, presenting him here not just as a poet, but as a polymath. His monumental presence is emphasized by the larger-than-life depiction and the slightly low viewpoint. The large head, silhouetted against the brighter sky at that point, resembles a halo, transfiguring the poet into a luminous figure. As a result, His solitude does not isolate him, but elevates him above the ordinary crowd. The vast Roman Campagna itself symbolizes freedom, and Goethe's relaxed posture show how lost in thought he is. The white cloak, draped like a Roman toga, further reinforced this connection to antiquity. The composition, with Goethe placed slightly to the left of the center, creates space, directing our gaze across the landscape and then back to the central figure. Every element of this carefully staged scene contributes to making Goethe's intellectual and spiritual renewal in Italy visual tangible, and invites us to his profound reflection on human nature. However, if you look closer to the painting, you might notice something unusual, something art historians has puzzled over for generations. Look at Goethe's left leg. It appears disproportionately long, almost as if it doesn't quite belong to his body. And not only that, Goethe also has two left feet or shoes in the painting. These anatomical anomalies, once you see them, are quite striking, and a question arises. How could a talented painter as Tischbein make such obvious mistakes, especially when depicting such an important figure? There are several theories that attempt to explain this peculiar detail. A common explanation suggests that it was an artistic choice, not an error. Perhaps Tischbein deliberately elongated the leg to create a sense of grandeur or to emphasize Goethe's connection to classical ideals, where human forms were often idolized and proportions sometimes exaggerated for aesthetic effects. In classical sculptures, for example, arms and legs were often depicted as elongated to convey elegance and dynamic. Tischbein, deeply immersed in the world of antiquity during his time in Rome, might have incorporated such an aesthetic principle into his portrait of Goethe. This interpretation views the error as a conscious stylistic choice, a subtle nod to the artistic conventions of antiquity that both Tischbein and Goethe admired. The most probable theory points to the practical challenges of painting a larger-than-life, complex portrait and to political unrest. Tischbein began the painting in 1787 and presumably had already painted the head, hat and coat. This is suggested by the paint application in these areas, which is noticeably thinner in the rest of the painting. In 1799, the French captured Naples, where Tischbein's studio was located, causing him to leave the city due to the conflict and return to Germany. By this time, the relationship between Goethe and Tischbein had already cooled off, and the painting was still not finished. And Tischbein probably couldn't take a painting over 2 meters long with him on his journey home. So it had to be sold. But no one would have bought a one-legged Goethe. Therefore, the painting probably had to be finished by a lay painter. Goethe's left foot was simply copied to become his right, and instead of a proper bow, it was topped with a strange jumble. Neither Goethe nor Tischbein probably never have seen the finished painting. It eventually came into the possession of a Danish consul and banker. It passed through several hands until it entered the collection of the Städel Museum in Frankfurt in 1877, where it can still be seen today. Regardless of the exact reason for its creation, this anatomical peculiarity adds a fascinating layer to the painting. It humanizes the highly revered figure of Goethe and reminds us that even in monumental works of art, subtle imperfections can exist. It also invites the viewer to engage more deeply with the artwork, to look beyond the obvious, and to ponder the artist's intention and challenges. It's a detail that sparks conversations and encourages a closer examination of the painting's unique characteristics. Despite, or perhaps because of, the minor imperfections, the painting has become an icon. The enduring influence of Goethe in the Campagna extends far beyond its original creation. It has become an emblematic image, deeply embedded in German cultural consciousness. For generations, it has shaped how Germans imagined Goethe and his Italian journey. His influence is evident in various forms, from academic studies to pop culture. Other artists have reinterpreted or referenced the painting, acknowledging its status as a cultural milestone. Even Andy Warhol, the pop art icon known for his radical reinterpretation of art and celebrity, engaged with Goethe's legacy. Warhol's approach was to deconstruct grand narratives and present cultural icons as reproducible images, reflecting the commercialization of fame. In a way, Tischbein's portrait of Goethe already began this process by solidifying Goethe's image for the masses. The portrait contributed to the creation of Goethe as an enduring icon, a precursor to the modern celebrity that Warhol would later explore in his own work. The enduring power of an image to define a public figure, a central concept in Warhol's art, is perfectly illustrated by Tischbein's Goethe. It cemented Goethe's public persona, transforming him from a writer to a cultural phenomenon. In essence, Goethe in the Campagna is more than just a painting. It's a narrative of personal transformation, a testament to a unique friendship and a cornerstone of German cultural identity. And the slightly long leg? It serves as a subtle reminder that even in works of enduring beauty, charming quirks can exist, inviting us to look closer, think deeper, and perhaps even smile. It reminds us that art isn't always about perfect reproduction, but about capturing an essence, a feeling, a story. And sometimes the most memorable stories have the most unexpected details. And that's why it's art.